Going to call the meeting to order. Number one.
Minutes of the City Council meeting, October 21st, 2019.
Councilor Delano.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve as amended.
Motion to approve as amended is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? It is approved. Number two.
Now is the time set for the public hearing on the amendment to the proposed rezoning of land off 269 Mechanic Street, identified as map 56, parcel 125, order number 19-100, 7738C.
This public hearing will be held in four stages. First, public speaking in favor. Second, questions from the public. Third, public speaking in opposition. And fourth, questions from the council. First, public speaking in favor. Please come forward, state your name, and good evening.
Good evening. Michael Norris, I'm the attorney representing the applicant in this matter. I was here before you about a month and a half ago. This is property located at 269 Mechanic Street in Marlborough. This property is zoned, in the front part is residential B, and the rear part of the building, the property is limited industrial. When this building was built, it was built with a slight encroachment on what is now the rail trail. You can see where it says over there, area to be rezoned, area A. And you can see in front of that a little bit of a hash mark. That's where the building encroaches on this property. When we originally came before you, the only thing we were dealing with was the property in front, which shows where the two-story brick building is and the rest of that property. When we went to the planning board, the issue was raised about this little piece of the building. It's only maybe a foot and a half that encroaches, as to what we were going to do with that, because that would then end up in a limited industrial zone, and the rest of it would be RB. So what we're doing now is asking the city council to rezone not only the original parcel that we were talking about where the building is, but also that little strip of land that's on the city-owned rail trail property. Thank you.
Anyone else speaking in favor? Anyone else speaking in favor? Anyone else speaking in favor? Seeing none, declare that part of the public hearing closed. Questions from the public? Questions from the public? Questions from the public? Seeing none, declare that part of the public hearing closed. Public speaking in opposition? Public speaking in opposition? Public speaking in opposition? Seeing none, declare that part of the public hearing closed. I'm going to break my mallet here. What's going on? Somebody... Yeah. Questions from the council? Questions from the council? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just to clarify, are you saying that the building itself is in that property, or is it just land that surrounds the building itself?
No.
Please use the mic.
Use the microphone, Mike.
Peter, maybe you could point out, the only part that's on...
Turn to the mic.
Excuse me, the only part that's on the rail trail is where Peter's showing you, that little strip of land.
Okay.
Okay?
And so what's the red property is just...
The red property is the area we want to rezone, which encompasses that little piece of property plus a little more.
Okay.
There is also an easement there that the MBTA at one point gave to the owner of the building so that he could take care of the encroachment problem for the building, and also to get on the property to maintain it.
So it's a maintenance and care strip, effectively.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I think you just brought up part of my question. My understanding from the deed is that the land was for a maintenance easement. Do we really need to rezone it if all you're going to do is be on the property when you need to wash the windows and deal with the...
The difficulty is that that little piece of the building is on the property. And I've had discussions with the city solicitor about this, and they feel that the best way to take care of this problem is to have that area that we're showing rezoned along with the other part of the property.
So you're not rezoning the whole easement area?
No,
only
no.
part of it? Part of the
Only
easement?
rezoning the area that's shown as
Yeah,
Area
that's what I
A.
was curious about, that 1.86 feet at the...
Yeah.
northerly edge versus the 4 at the other end, because it doesn't match the numbers in the, okay, thank you.
Counselor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for answering the question about the easement. Going forward in the future, do you anticipate needing to create any other further easements
No.
on that property? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other questions from the council? Any other questions from the council? Seeing none, declare that part of the public hearing closed, the entire public hearing, and this will be in Urban Affairs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number 3.
Now is the time set for the public hearing on the proposed zoning amendment relative to creating the Route 20 East zoning district, order number 19-100, 7716A.
This public hearing will be held in 4 stages, public speaking in favor, questions from the public, public speaking in opposition, and questions from the council. First, public speaking in favor. Please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joseph Delano, Ward 1 City Councilor. As you know, Mr. President, this idea was first conceived by the Marlborough Economic Development Corporation a number of years ago. 2012, I think, is when it first started incubating. And it's only recent that the timing has seemed to be right and everyone agreed that it was time to bring it forward. When we set up the public hearing, I had expected to have the experts at MAPC here to answer all your technical questions, but alas, they are not. And so any questions that come up, we will take them into our committee and make sure they get answered thoroughly and properly. So with that, let's see. We're just going to walk through a little bit of really why is this being done. I think everybody knows that Route 20 East is going to be redone by the state. They're going to pour in millions, probably tens of millions of dollars to upgrade that whole area going to the Sudbury line. And part of what they're doing is to make it more, I guess I'll say, pedestrian and user-friendly. So rather than trying to build it to be a super highway and speedway, what they're really wanting to do now is to make it more usable for the residents that live in that area. And so the idea is to capitalize on those improvements, to putting zoning in so that over time, and we know this will take many years, probably decades, that as things turn over, hopefully we'll have a better product where we don't have a dozen entrances and exits from each little building or office, which creates havoc for traffic. We really want to change the flow around so it's more like an apex center, so it works better for everybody. We really want to see more compact development, things that are pedestrian friendly, where people can actually walk within these types of developments. So you may be able to go in and park, go to a restaurant, to several stores, never having to get back in your car, which is kind of a nice thing. One of the things in the numerous meetings that were held throughout the years by MEDC that the property owners asked was, can we have extra height? If we're going to build something, can we build it a little higher? I believe it's 52 by right, 52 feet by right, and they requested that with a special permit. Well, they didn't ask for a special permit, but they asked that it go up to 85 feet in certain circumstances, which would be done by special permit. So the council will have to decide when and where that's appropriate. One of the things that will be allowed is residential buildings, but they will have to be mixed use. So we're not going to see just more apartments popping up without having some other nice accompaniments, whether it be restaurants, other types of things. And also this would allow by special permit a boutique hotel, which is 100 rooms or less, which I think the city could sorely use that. Also, one of the big features is that there are design standards similar to what we did downtown. We told people that, yeah, you can go ahead and build this, but you have to follow these guidelines to make it look nice, feel nice, to make sure that it's in harmony with everything around it, and that the building itself and outdoor areas are user-friendly, that they meld together very well. And so we think that's really an encouraging thing. And again, looking at keeping that internal traffic flow as much as possible. So I'm going to give you a couple of big overviews. So if you recall, Mr. President and councilors, when we first started talking about this, you know, originally, way back when, it was going to be from the Sudbury line to Wilson Street. Then it went from the Sudbury line to Concord Road to Hosmer Street to pretty far. So we eventually we're going to go all the way down to here. Over time, I think the council, and we did some meetings on it in committee, decided that's probably not where we want to go. So really, it's been kind of pared down a little bit, and you can see here essentially what we're doing, by the way, is the areas that are going to be rezoned are business in the business district, right? So in this new zone, depending on whether we call it Route 20 East or the Wayside Zone, whatever it might be, we're essentially trying to rezone the business properties. And this gives you all of the, and you have bigger maps that have been provided by the Public Works folks that show all of the individual parcels. So we'll have to make sure during committee that we have all those technically correct, that we're including the ones that should be included, excluding the ones that should be excluded. So there's been a lot of work, as I mentioned, over the years. There's been many, many different types of studies with design guidelines. Everybody's been involved with Mass DOT, and I think at a point I was part of the group that went out to visit Mass DOT talking about Route 20 East. And they're surprisingly receptive. There's been safety audits, the vision plan, which was done by VHB, which basically did some of those nice visuals. And there was an older marketing assessment by RKG. And we are asking RKG to update their report. So the idea of having a report, an economic report by RKG, is so that the council doesn't get into this mode of saying, gee, I want I don't know, whatever kind of business that you might want, whatever fancy store, I want a Nordstrom's, I want a Whole Foods, I want a this, I want a that. Well, they're going to come in and say, okay, realistically, folks, this is what's likely to survive and want to come to the area based on the demographics. And so that'll be a good thing. So this shows that there was a meeting on November 5th or 12th, 2012. There were actually a series of meetings down at the conference center at the old phone company down at the end of Lock Drive. So they had a number of groups, stakeholders that came in over a couple of days to talk about what they wanted to see, and then we redid that again in June of last year and August of last year. And a lot of the stakeholders did come from the Nuns of St. Anne's to all the different property owners that many of whom you know. So I'm not going to go too detailed into the table of uses, but just to give you a couple things, some highlights. So essentially, we're going to make some changes there, and it's not really highlighted well here, so I'm not going to have you strain your eyes, but essentially, things that we will allow that we didn't before. Artists and recording studios, you're going to be able to convert offices to banks, etc. Things you won't be able to do, no commercial kennels, no big hotels, but you will be allowed to do boutique hotels. Again, this is all subject to what we decide here on the council, folks. So these are suggestions by the MAPC, and a lot of it's also been decided or put forth based on the feedback. So there wouldn't be motels, commercial greenhouses, which are currently allowed, no outdoor recreation uses, no gas stations. Let's see. So no large agricultural sites more than 5 acres, no day camps, and sadly no water towers or reservoirs, in case you were hoping for one. So that just highlights some of the differences in the table of uses, and we will go through each of these during committee, and MAPC will be here with us, and I'm sure the folks at MEDC will be helping out, and that's really about where we are. We're just hoping to make that area more livable, more productive for the businesses that locate there. We've had some that have been there for a long time. We have others that have turned over and over and over. And so we want to make that a productive, livable area. So that's the idea. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking in favor, please come forward.
Mr. President, my name is Arthur Bergeron. I live at 27 Prospect Street. I'm not here on behalf of anybody, just me. First of all, I just want to I'm so happy to see this. I know that this has been worked on for like 7 or 8 years. I think the notion of picking an area and rezoning it as opposed to doing an overlay is absolutely the right strategy for these kinds of large areas. I think you're seeing it downtown. You're doing it on the French Hill piece in Lincoln Street. This is the right way to do it. I would suggest, as a branding matter, just a minor thing, I think Joe just referred, or Councilor Donato just referred to this notion of the Wayside District. That was actually a name that Tim Cummings, the old executive director at MEDC, had come up with as a way of, it's a branding issue. It's a branding issue. The notion of really trying to define this area, he thought of it because of the fact you've got the Wayside Country Store, you know, you're right down the street from the Wayside Inn, so in terms of really getting people interested in this as a distinct area, it just seemed like to make a lot of sense. One of the nice things about doing this is that because you're taking it out of the business zone, you could now play with some of the rules in this area later on to the extent that you think it's appropriate without having to change the whole business zone. My personal thing about the business zone is that what has been terrible about it, which you've now dealt with out at Apex and you've dealt with in some other areas, is the minimum, the frontage, which is just too small, and the size that is just too small. The notion of being able to have lots that have 5,000 square feet with 50 feet of frontage on Route 20 is the reason why it's all chopped up. And in the long run, you probably need to address that, but you know, that could come later. But the point is that once you've got a separate district, you can address it just within that district. It may be that there are still places where that's appropriate, not on Route 20 East. But so the notion of changing it to the Wayside District would be great. And I just want to, which I think we should also do, for all of the many times that I have listened to, we've all listened to, Councilor Delano sometimes get extremely passionate about certain things. This is one of the things that he really brought to the city council. This notion of looking at these large chunks of land, you know, first downtown, and then the piece with the mayor and all of you on Lincoln Street, and now this, of really trying to think ahead as to what Marlborough will look like in 5 or 10 or 20 years. And I think that, you know, that he should really be commended for that, as should many of you who have been really active in a lot of this. But anyway, those are my 2 cents. The big thing, the Wayside District. Thank you very much.
Anyone else speaking in favor? Speaking,
Councilor.
I'm not sure, because I'm in this district, so.
you can speak, this
Point
is
of-
for the public.
Okay, this is a point of order. I'm wondering if I should speak as a private citizen versus a counselor. This isn't, I'm in this, I live in this territory, or in this proposal.
Okay?
Thank you, I appreciate it. Appreciate your lenience on this. I agree that this area should be developed, and I like the different perspective for it that this is proposing, with a couple of exceptions. I think that the developments off of DeCenzo Boulevard don't need to be part of this, just in general. I mean, the closer it hugs to Route 20, that's perfectly fine, but those developments are set in their ways. I don't want to see these being imposed also in those condominium developments off of that. Overall, I think this part of the city is somewhat underrated. Again, I've said this a couple of times. It's the local neighborhood store, convenience store is a Target, and the local hardware store is Home Depot, and quite a few people can either walk or ride to it. So there's some real benefits to be living in that space. But I look forward to seeing how this will be developed. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else speaking in favor? Anyone else speaking in favor? Seeing none, declare that part of the public hearing closed. Questions from the public? Questions from the public? Questions from the public? Seeing none, declare that part of the public hearing closed. Public speaking in opposition? Public speaking in opposition? Public speaking in opposition? Declare that part of the public hearing closed. Questions from the council? Questions from the council? Councilor Landers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll say most of my comments, fortunately, I'm on urban. I still have a couple concerns, Mr. President. I think I brought it up at each meeting. The fact that it stops at Phelps Street, that the reconstruction of Route 20 also stops, I believe, at Phelps Street or Concord Road, further Wilson Street.
Peters Ave.
Peters Ave, I meant Peters Ave. All right, and we all know that the state highway ends right at Palmetto Square. There's a stake there. State highway ends. I myself all right, feel that if we stop the reconstruction at Peters Ave, we stop our new proposal here at Phelps Street, they're almost not logical places to stop it. I would like to see both those projects continue up to Palmetto Square. I don't see any drastic changes that would be there, but Mr. President, it's ironic, that's almost our best piece of roadway. Almost from Palmetto Square, you know, down to almost Concord Road, you know, Route 20 is 5 to 6 lanes there. So it has all kinds of potential. Now, I think we've talked before about the shopping center that we all frequent, and I think it's all filled up now except for 1 or 2 stores. You know, that somehow, that could drastically change, or that could change in some ways. You know, but maybe it's been that way for 30 years, maybe there could be change. So, Mr. President and Mr. Chairman, you know, I'm going to bring this up again at Urban. I think I know some of, maybe kind of, you know, they're set in their ways, but I would like the rest of the councilors, and there's 2 missing tonight, to take a look at some of my words I mentioned. Because what I'm concerned about, Mr. President, I could see that section being neglected for the next 20 or 30 years. Really, that's what happens, because once they do Route 20, once we rezone this, all right, I think that's going to be a forgotten section between Phelps Street and Palmetto. So I am going to bring that up. I hope we can have further discussion in urban affairs. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to remind the councilor, we did take this up in urban affairs, and the general consensus was at most to go to Phelps Street, if not to pull back to Wilson Street. And so I would encourage the council, if wherever we decide to stop, we would have to start again from the beginning if we want to make it any bigger. We can always make it smaller without re-advertising. But you can always start next year and just go to the next zone. You can have the Wayside Inn, Wayside District, and then the Route 20 East District, and keep going. There's no reason it would have to wait. I mean, MEDC, MAPC are at our beck and call, so just, that's my response there.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. As was mentioned, I think we did have a discussion in urban affairs as to the district size. I would certainly not want to make it larger. I would almost rather it be smaller and then add on as we need to. I guess my concerns are whether we are in our rezoning a currently zoned business district with the allowable uses in it, creating a pre-existing non-conforming area. We currently allow gasoline stations. There are trailer mobile homes. There's a restaurant with a drive-through, and there is a dry cleaner. Those will not be allowed in the new zoning district, I don't believe. So I think that there really needs to be a long look at what is proposed to be allowed by right and by special permit, so that we are cognizant of existing businesses and existing uses of our zoning. And I would also please ask that the list of the zones at the end of this be put in numerical order. I know that's not a big thing to a lot of people, but it would certainly help make it easier going forward. And I will continue with discussion. I certainly am happy that this is coming to fruition after all these years, so good luck.
Councilor?
So just a clarification, were you saying the list of parcels to put in numerical order?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world.
I know we have the map, but I believe at the very end is a list of the numerous specific parcels, and they are all over the place in
Completely agree, Councilor.
finding them.
And we will go through the table of uses as well. Of course, it's, I think the council all understands that when we're changing underlying zoning, everything that's going on now is absolutely acceptable. That it just wouldn't be allowed to have a new mobile home park and a new gas station. I think there's good thought as to whether we want those new things or not, but we'll decide that in committee.
Councilor Oram.
And thank you, Mr. President. And actually, I'll continue with that discussion. My concern would be the stakeholders that own a gas station, that own a drive-through, when they go to sell, can they still sell it as a gas station, as a car wash, as a drive-through?
Those are legal, pre-existing,
Pre-existing,
non-conforming, and are totally acceptable to going forward.
So that would be very important to make sure the stakeholders are aware of that, because they would lose value, obviously, if they couldn't. So I'd be interested in seeing if there were minutes taken on the stakeholder meetings to see what the view is of the stakeholders who are actually down in that area, to see what they thought. I don't know if minutes were taken at those stakeholder meetings, but be curious to. I was very, very interested in the minutes from July. Those were verbatim. I don't know who took those, but they were verbatim. So I'd be curious to see if there was any minutes taken of the stakeholders' meetings.
I imagine there were notes taken.
Well, that was Sarah.
I don't think there were minutes because it wasn't that kind of meeting. This new, Sarah, our city council secretary, has new software that allows her to do this
Yep.
transcription, if you will.
That's how that happened.
With very few changes that she has to make. It's
Yeah,
kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was amazed at those minutes. They were verbatim. And,
But just to answer your other question, Councilor Orman, many of the main stakeholders were at these meetings, and they do understand the difference between an overlay and underlying zoning changes, and really, it just doesn't affect them. Doesn't affect them.
and I would have to agree with Councilor Doucette's comment that DeCenzo Drive is no different from the Village, which was taken out of this area, but again, that can be discussed because that's already residential down there. Mr. President, I heard felt like I was listening to a meeting when I read those minutes, but your concerns were brought to my attention as well as where do we stand? Is it 1,500 or 3,400 facilities down there for residential? I mean, that was a good question you asked and got it clarified. So those are the type of things we need to look at. Not that I'm against mixed growth. Mixed growth is excellent for the environment to get people walking. But I think at the same time, and I know it was brought up at the meeting, that, we're not Wayland, we're not Sudbury, we're not really Framingham or Natick either. We're kind of in between the two. We're not Route 9, we're not Route 20 in Wayland and Sudbury, we're not Route 9 in Natick and Framingham. We're kind of in the middle, in my view. So I would ask that we apply the best management practices, and we put whatever we may have on our planning team together to take a solid look at this, especially on that view, that when, as demographics were mentioned, when we kind of don't fall into either of those categories I just mentioned, but we have to fall somewhere, and I would support the smart growth.
Mr. President, so as you well know, we have actually the best of the best that have been working with us at MEDC, MAPC. We're bringing the experts from VHB, RKG. So we have the best of the best. We don't need to be any of those other communities because, frankly, we're kicking their butts. We've been doing a good job, and we know what we're doing here, and I think we can just continue going forward.
And I would
continue
suggest
our
on
great
that
progress.
same team, the planning board, our own city planners, the planning board, be part of this discussion, be invited to the meetings. Let's get their view on it as well. Maybe even the zoning board, who may have to look at this down the road. So it's a great project, in my view, to look at and to be discussed. The final product, obviously, will be a mix of many, many views within the city, the stakeholders, the planning groups I mentioned, and of course, the city council. Thank you.
Mr. President, we've obviously already done all those things, and by law, the planning board has to be involved, so.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? Any other questions from the council? No. Just for your information, Route 20 East reconstruction is supposed to start sometime next year, and they're going to be reducing it from 4 lanes down to 2 lanes with a drop-over lane in the middle. So, in other words, they're going to slow the traffic down going down through that area. So those are the changes that you're going to be seeing. So there's no other questions from the council. I declare the public hearing closed, the entire public hearing, and this will be in Urban Affairs. Number 4.
Communication from the mayor regarding a grant acceptance in the amount of $124,805 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security for the Police Department, which will be used to offset overtime costs in the Public Safety Dispatching Center.
Council Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to accept the communication and to accept the grant, and congratulations to the police department for filling out the paperwork. This particular grant is a reimbursement grant for fiscal year 2020 for state 911 training.
So a motion to approve a motion to approve and accept the grant has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion, all in favor? That is approved. Number 5.
Communication from the mayor regarding grant acceptance in the amount of $35,964.84 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security for the Police Department as reimbursement for mandated training for dispatch personnel.
Council Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, congratulations to the police department for filling out the paperwork. Move to accept the grant. This one is for mandated training for that 911 office.
Okay, a motion is made and seconded to accept and approve. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? That is approved. Number 6.
A communication from the mayor regarding grant acceptance in the amount of $29,877.63 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security for the Police Department, which will be used to purchase a new CAD system and EMD software to conduct dispatch quality assurance reviews.
Council Roby.
Thank you. Move to approve the grant. Again, we'd like to get money from other people to be able to buy software, and this is a great opportunity.
Okay, motion is made and seconded to accept and approve. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? All in favor? It is approved. Number 7.
A communication from the mayor regarding an update on the library renovation project.
Councilor Delano.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to refer to finance.
Motion is made and seconded to refer to finance. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion? All in favor? That is approved. Number 8.
Communication from City Solicitor Jason Grossfield regarding proposed zoning amendment relative to the definitions of home office, home occupation, Chapter 650, Section 5, in proper legal form, Order Number 19-100-7756C.
Councilor Delano.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move down to reports of the committee.
Motion has been made and seconded to move down to the reports of committees. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? All in favor? It is approved. Number 9.
Communication from City Solicitor Jason Grossfield regarding the application for an LED sign special permit from Dan Corbin on behalf of Blue Hill Fuels LLC at 114 East Main Street in proper legal form, Order Number 19-100-7779A.
Councilor Delano.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to have this moved down to be taken up with reports of committee.
Motion is made and seconded to move to reports of committees. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? That is approved. Number 10.
Communication from Assistant City Solicitor Jay Peaks regarding the application for a special permit from Nicholas Masso of Indo Laboratories to operate an independent marijuana testing laboratory at 257 Cimarano Drive in proper legal form, Order Number 19-100-7757B.
Councilor Delano.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to have this moved down the agenda to be taken up with item number 24.
Motion is made and seconded to move this down to be taken up with item number 24 on tonight's agenda. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? That is approved. 11.
Application for a pool table license from Adam Krasinski of Tacklebox Brewing Company at 416 Boston Post Road East.
Councilor Landis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please refer this to Public Services.
Motion is made and seconded to refer to public services. Any discussion on the motion? Yes.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilor.
President. I would just ask that the committee try and handle this expeditiously. Mr. Krasinski and Tacklebox Brewers have been subject to a lot of delays. And so just if we can move that along, I'm sure
That was my intent. I talked to Karen about that this afternoon.
Much appreciated, Mr. Chairman.
Karen, you said
I think we need a public hearing.
you need a public hearing.
So.
Yeah, you need a public hearing for a pool table.
Oh, okay. Yes, we did talk about that. Okay,
Yeah,
so
need a public
likewise
hearing.
refer it to Public Services and also set the date for a public hearing, which would have to be November 18th.
November 18th.
So council won't be as quick as you
It's
were
going to
hoping.
be a very busy night on the 18th. Okay, so we set a date for public hearing on November 18th. Refer to public services.
Right, thank you, Mr. President.
And advertise.
And advertise. No, do you have to advertise?
Public
I don't think, yeah. Yeah, advertise. Okay. All in favor? Is approved. Number 13.
Number
12,
12.
excuse me, I'm ahead of myself.
Application for renewal of a livery license from Katsunora Tanaka, DBA Global Limousine and Tour Services at 17 Eager Court.
Council Landers.
Thank you, Mr. President. We might be here that so late that on the 18th that we might need a ride home, so, please, Mr. President, we'll refer this to Public Services.
Motion is made and seconded to refer to Public Services. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion, all in favor? It is approved. Number 13 now.
Communication from Barlow Signs regarding an updated request for signs for Approach Student Center at 56 Apex Drive within the Hospitality and Recreation Mixed Use Overlay District. Order number 16-19-100, 6443.
Councilor Delano.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, we had them into our Urban Affairs Committee a couple of times. We encouraged them to get within the allotted amount of square footage for their signs. They complied, and so it would be my recommendation that we approve the signs as presented.
Motion is made and seconded to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion, all in favor? That is approved. Number 14.
Minutes, Conservation Commission, July 25th, 2019.
Councilor Dwyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to accept and place on file agenda item number 14, the minutes of the Conservation Commission, July 25th, 2019. Agenda item number 15, the minutes of the Planning Board, October 7th, 2019. And agenda item number 16, the minutes of the Zoning Board of Appeals, October 1st, 2019.
Motion is made and seconded to accept and place on file agenda items 14, 15, and 16. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? That is approved. Councilor Delano.
Thank you, Mr. President. I moved for a suspension of the rules to take in a communication from the mayor regarding the firefighters' contract.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to, for a suspension of the rules for introduce a communication from the mayor. All in favor of suspension of the rules, please, all in favor? Opposed?
Mr. President, I move to refer to finance.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to refer to finance. This is the transfer request for a memorandum of agreement for firefighters local 1714. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? All in favor? That is approved. Okay. Reports. Urban.
Thank you, Mr. President. Urban Affairs met on October 22nd to take up 3 items. The first was order number 19-100, 7670, application for signed special permit from Attorney Elizabeth McDonough Noonan on behalf of Colbia Enterprises, LLC, 342 Boston Post Road East. We were able to deal with this expeditiously. We have changed the zoning regarding the pump tops and displays, and so there was nothing left except for the freestanding sign, which is within all requirements. And so the motion was made by Councilor Jouer and sent to approve. Motion carried 5-0. Order number 2 that we took up that night was 19-100, 7779, application for signed special permit from Dan Corbin on behalf of Blue Hill Fuels, LLC, which is the Gulf Station at 114 East Main Street. Essentially, everything else was in compliance with the new rule changes. They're just changing their sign, which is the same size and within all other requirements. So a motion was made by Councilor Jouer to approve. That motion carried 5-0. And the committee also made a motion to ask for a suspension of the rules tonight to approve that. Do you want to take those up later?
We'll do the 2 suspensions after we go through the whole report.
And then the last item was order number 19-100, 7756A, communication from City Solicitor Jason Grossfield on behalf of Councilor Delano regarding proposed zoning amendment relative to the definition of home office/home occupation. A motion was made. We basically didn't change it on advice of the building commissioner. Everybody seemed to be happy with that once we had all the proper explanations. And motion made by Councilor Jouer to approve. That motion carried 5-0. And the committee also voted to ask for a suspension of the rules to vote on it this evening.
Okay, so there's a request for 2 suspensions of the rules. We'll take up the first one, which is order number 19-100, 7779. That's the application for a signed permit for Blue Hills Fuel at 114 East Main Street. This is for a suspension of the rules. All in favor? That is approved.
Mr. Mr. President, I move the recommendation of the committee to approve.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the application for a sign permit from Dan Corbin on behalf of Blue Hills LLC, Gulf Station 114 East Main. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion? All in favor? That is approved. Next one for a suspension is order number 19-100-7756A, communication from City Solicitor Jason Grossfield on behalf of Councilor Delano regarding zoning amendment relative to the definition of home office home occupation. This is a request for a suspension of the rules to be taken up this evening. All in favor of suspending the rules, please signify. That is approved. And now we have the request for order number 19-100-7756A. Councilor Delano.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the recommendation of the committee, which is to approve.
Motion is made and seconded to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Oh, this is an ordinance change, so this has to be done in the 4 stages. Okay, first is all those in favor of suspending the first reading and adopting the second reading. All in favor, please signify. Opposed? That is approved. Passage to be enrolled. All in favor? Opposed? That is approved. Passage to be ordained. All in favor? Opposed? That is approved. And is there an objection to passage in one evening? Seeing none, the ordinance is approved. Congratulations. We got it.
Finally. Thank you, and thank you to the council and committee.
Okay. Moving on. Let's see. Unfinished business, number 17.
Excuse me. Order number 19-100-7807, a communication from City Solicitor Jason Grossfield regarding acceptance of the open space parcel, Goodale Estates Subdivision Open Space Development Special Permit. Motion was made by Councilor Delano to approve the order accepting 5.06 acres of land for open space on Goodale Estates, place the property under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission to manage and control for purposes of promotion of development of natural resources, watershed protection, passive recreation, and conservation, and accept the payment of $5,000 to be placed in the Conservation Maintenance Fund. This was, it's a recommendation of Legislative and Legal Affairs to approve.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the recommendation, which is to approve.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? All in favor? It is approved. Number 18.
Order number 19-100-7778, communication from the mayor regarding the appointment of John Welsh Jr. to the Parks and Recreation Commission for a 3-year term. It's a recommendation of the Personnel Committee to approve.
Councilor Tenera.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? All in favor? That is approved. Number 19.
Order number 19-100-7790, communication from the mayor regarding the reappointment of Pamela Wilderman to the Historical Commission for a 3-year term from date of confirmation. And it's the recommendation of the Personnel Committee to approve the reappointment.
Councilor Tenera.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion? All in favor? That is approved. 20.
Order number 19-100-7803, communication from the mayor regarding the reappointments of Brenda Costa, Rosemary Elwood, Jean McGeough, Leslie Begar, and Patricia Gollier to the Council on Aging Board for 3-year terms from date of confirmation. It is a recommendation from the Personnel Committee to approve the reappointments.
Councilor Tenera.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? All in favor? That is approved. 21.
Order number 19-100-7804, the communication from the mayor regarding the appointment of Nicholas Evans to the Historical Commission for a 3-year term from the date of confirmation. It is a recommendation of the Personnel Committee to approve.
Councilor Tenera.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? All in favor? That is approved.
President, point of order, please.
Point of order.
Yes, on agenda item number 19, we also had Captain Evans, and I don't know how his name was missed, but just to make sure that his appointment goes through also.
Number 19? Oh, Captain
That was
Nevins.
21.
Oh,
That was,
Mr. One, you just approved, sir.
one item ahead of myself.
yeah,
Thank you, sorry.
okay. Already did that. Okay. 22.
Order number 19-100-7805, communication from the mayor regarding the appointment of Wayne E. Stanley Sr. to the Commission on Disabilities for a 2-year term from the date of confirmation. The recommendation of the Personnel Committee is to approve the appointment.
Counselor Tenera.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? All in favor? It is approved. 23.
Order number 19-100-7673, a proposed zoning petition from Councilor Delano was requested by Commissioner Cook and Solicitor Grossfield, amending Chapter 650, Section 12, non-conforming uses, and is the recommendation of the Urban Affairs Committee to approve.
Counselor Delano.
Mr. President, this is an ordinance change that will require the 4 stages. I move the recommendation of the committee, which is to approve.
Okay, as this is an ordinance change, this must be taken up in 4 stages. First, all those in favor of suspending the first reading and adopting the second reading. All in favor? Signify. Opposed? That is approved. Passage to be enrolled. All in favor? Opposed? That is approved. Passage to be ordained. All in favor? Opposed? That is approved. Is there any objection to passage in one evening? Seeing none, the ordinance is approved. Okay. Now, number 24.
Order number 19-100-7757, the application for a special permit from Nicholas Masso on behalf of Indo Laboratories to operate a marijuana testing laboratory at 257 Cimarano Drive. It is the recommendation of the Urban Affairs Committee to approve the special permit as amended.
Councilor Delano.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, Mr. President, this is really just a testing lab, and quite frankly, they could be testing anything, any kind of drug, any other thing. So we just made sure that they did have all their security procedures in place, that the police chief was informed and required to sign off. And one of the other important things I think one of the councilors brought up was to make sure that we know that the products that they use to test are, by the process itself, destroyed, because they're putting chemicals rendering them unusable, but also the excess products that are not being used for testing will be immediately, similarly, placed in a barrel with alcohol, and that product will be securely locked. So there was one other thing as well. I think our resident Eagle Eye, or maybe I should call her Hawkeye from Last of the Mohegans, Councilor Roby, did find that on page 8, item number 12, in the paragraph about background checks, that on the second line we should remove the word "of." Just doesn't belong there, and I thank Councilor Roby for her sharpness in picking that out. And with that, I would move the recommendation of the committee, which is to approve, Mr. President.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to approve. This requires a roll call vote.
Did you want to read the conditions?
Oh, let's read the conditions. Yeah.
The City Council, pursuant to its authority under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, and the zoning ordinance of the City of Marlborough, hereby grants the applicant a special permit to operate an independent marijuana testing laboratory, subject to the following conditions, which conditions shall be binding on the applicant, its successors, and/or assigns. 1, construction in accordance with applicable laws. Construction is to be in accordance with all applicable building codes and zoning regulations in effect in the City of Marlborough and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. 2, compliance with applicable laws. The applicant, its successor, and/or assigns agrees to comply with all municipal, state, and federal rules, regulations, and ordinances as they may apply to the construction, maintenance, and operation of the use. 3, site plan review. The issuance of the special permit is further subject to detailed site plan review in accordance with the City of Marlborough Site Plan Review Ordinance prior to the issuance of the building permit as required by Chapter 650, Section 32E of the zoning ordinance. Any additional changes, alterations, modifications, or amendments as required during the process of site plan review shall be further conditions attached to the building permit, and no occupancy permit shall be issued until the applicant has complied with all these conditions. Subsequent site plan review shall be consistent with the conditions of this special permit, and the plan submitted, reviewed, and approved by the City Council as a special permit granting authority. 4, incorporation of submissions. All plans, photo renderings, site evaluations, briefs, and other documentation provided by the applicant as part of the applications and as amended or revised during the application hearing process before the City Council and/or the City Council's Urban Affairs Committee are herein incorporated into and become part of this special permit and become conditions and requirements of the same unless otherwise altered by the City Council. 5, compliance with state requirements. In accordance with Chapter 650, Section 1847C of the zoning ordinance, the use shall comply with all statutes and regulations of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for the licensure and operation of an independent marijuana testing laboratory. 6, security. The applicant has and shall continue to comply with the City Council requirement that a written security plan be approved and signed by the City of Marlborough Police Chief or his designee. Any substantive changes to security plan will receive written approval from the Police Chief or his designee. The applicant, its successors, and/or sign shall utilize surveillance cameras capable of 24-hour video recording, archiving recordings, and ability to immediately reproduce images in, on, around, or at the premises. 7, processing. There shall be no retail sales permitted at the site. All waste products shall be rendered unusable in an alcohol solution inside of a 55-gallon container. Any material not used for testing will be immediately treated in the same manner. The waste container will be stored within the facility inside of a secured and monitored waste room. When the waste container reaches capacity, a licensed waste hauler will be scheduled to retrieve and remove the container from inside the facility. 8, contact information. The applicant, its successors, and/or sign shall provide current contact information of management and staff to the Chief of Police, the Building Commissioner, and the City Council. 9, annual reports. The applicant, its successors, and/or sign shall submit to the City Council the same annual reports that they must provide to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Department of Public Health, and/or the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. 10, job applicants. The applicant commits to considering local applicants for employment and independent contract purposes. A job applicant's residency will be one positive consideration among many considerations such as experience and educational background. 11, inspection and records. The applicant, its successors, and/or assigned shall make the use available for regular inspections by city officials or their agents, and shall provide city officials or their agents with access to the same records which are available for inspection at the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Department of Public Health, and/or the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. 12, background checks. The applicant, its successors, and/or assigned shall require that all staff undergo a criminal background check as required by the Cannabis Control Commission hiring requirements. 13, compliance with health regulations. Applicant will comply with all current marijuana regulations and any future changes proposed and implemented by the City of Marlborough Board of Health. 14, signs and signage. The applicant shall not utilize signs or signage that mention, imply, or infer in any way, shape, or form involvement in the marijuana business. 15, recording of decision. In accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, Section 11, the applicant at its expense shall record this special permit in the Middlesex South Registry of Deeds after the city clerk has certified that the 20-day appeal period for appealing the special permit has elapsed with no appeal having been filed and before the applicant has applied to the building commissioner for the building permit. Upon recording, the applicant shall forthwith provide a copy of the recorded special permit to the city solicitor's office, the building department, and the city council's office.
As this is, a motion is made and seconded to approve, it requires a roll call vote.
Councilor Landers.
Yes.
Councilor Dumas is absent. Councilor Jouer.
Yes.
Councilor Ossing is absent. Councilor Delano.
Yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Yes.
Councilor Clancy.
Yes.
Councilor Irish.
Yes.
Councilor Orem.
Yes.
Councilor Roby.
Yes.
Councilor Doucette.
Yes.
9 yeas, sir.
9 yea, it is approved. Congratulations.
Mr. President, I move to adjourn.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? We are adjourned. Just want to remember that on the 5th, we have our election coming up, and on the 11th, we have Veterans Day coming up, too. So we have the Veterans Day Parade. Oh, I wish you all well in the next election. I don't have to worry about it. Have a good evening. Thank you.